Right, good evening everybody. Tonight's stream started a little bit late. Apologies for that. Thank you for waiting, if indeed anybody has been waiting so far. No, Chris, it's not over. You didn't miss it. I missed the start of it. That is what occurred there. So sorry to everyone that has or maybe had been waiting and then was like, oh, what's going on? Things are going now. So tonight, gonna do a stream. That's what's going to happen. Gonna do a stream about independent bottlings. Now, I had to think about sort of how I wanted to tackle this because it's not an original topic by any stretch of the imagination, not even a little bit. So I thought, right, well, what can I do that's different? And I think that the simplest and quickest thing that I can do is just sort of talk about why they're worth looking into. And also kind of go over some of my own experiences with independent bottlers, which started from a place of fear, because I didn't understand them, and I didn't know where they were coming from. I didn't know what the hell was going on with them. And so I thought that might be a topic to cover tonight. And I've got a couple of bottles off screen just here. There's also a bottle of Marsala at the background there as well. Just ignore that for now. And yeah, we're going to do some talking and have a good old time. But before we want to do that, there is actually a notification that has come up that I owe an apology to. So I'm going to flash this up now. Somebody has joined the channel as a member. Now that this happened 2 days ago. Hence why I owe an apology to this, because normally whenever anybody reaches out to support the channel in any way, shape or form, I reach out and say thank you. But there have been other times where I've been a little bit slow off the mark with it, but as a general rule, I will reach out and say thank you, because that is something that deserves being thanked for. Because this is the first channel member that I've had, I didn't really know what the system was in terms of kind of like being notified, getting told, and the answer is there's nothing. There is absolutely nothing to let you know that somebody has joined up. So no, you don't get a notification on YouTube, you don't get nothing, absolutely nothing happened. And I can tell you that because the first I found out about it was I came onto the stream deck earlier on today to kind of make sure that everything was working and move a couple of bits and pieces around. And this notification came up. So it's there, isn't it, on screen? That notification came up to say that somebody had joined as a member. And I was like, have they? And I went and checked, and surely enough, they have. So thank you very much to Eugene. Your name will be included in the credits. And I hope if you're watching this, or indeed in the future, you enjoy using all the fun toys that you get to play with now, like emojis of Mo and things like that. Whilst I've been talking, got a couple of comments coming in as well. Good evening, Bogdan. Nice to see you again. And hello, hello. Right. So, topic for tonight, indies. I suppose I should kick off by kind of saying, what is an independent bottler? You know, what am I talking about when I'm talking about independent? Like, it's not independence for Scotland. That's a different thing entirely. Or, you know, the notion of independence. It's independence. It's a tricky word to say after a little while, isn't it? Let's move that there. Independent bottlers are, how to word this in a way, it's a tricky topic to cover as well, because like I said, everyone and their mum has done it at this point. Andy at Maltbox recently did a 3-part series on different kinds of independent bottlers that there are and like what you can get on the market. And that was very informative, and he has a substantial collection of whiskey, so he was able to kind of like sort of show examples from everyone and everything. And actually, I've just remembered there was a bottle I meant to get off the shelf that I haven't. It's behind me. I'll get that in a minute. So for more kind of like in-depth conversation about it, I suppose, there's lots of other people that have done it already and done it better, arguably. Well, not even arguably, I think just have, you know, they've so my take on these, because I'm relatively new to the whole independent bottlers game, and when I kind of found out sort of the value aspect of them in some cases, that was when I was kind of a bit more interested. So An independent bottler is a company that's been set up by people. They go to a distillery and they go, hey, what casks have you got kicking around that you maybe don't want to use or that you want to sell on to us? And different distilleries have different house policies on what you can buy, if you can buy anything. Some of the more high capacity ones like Glenfiddich and stuff, for example, would just flat out say, no, we're going to use everything. Doesn't matter. We'll find a use for it, and we will sell it. So they don't. You don't see indie Glenfiddichs; they just don't exist. They did in the past. I know someone's probably going to chime in and be like, "Oh, well, actually, I think you'll find there's like Cadenhead bottlers." Like, they did used to exist. Yes, that's correct. Or at the very least, I have not seen them of anything really past the 80s, which makes sense because obviously, Glenfiddich have a big market share at the minute, and it makes sense that they're just going to want to use all the stocks that they have. So an independent bottler, as a company, will go to a distillery and be like, right, cool, what have you got? What's good? Or in some cases, even, what have you got that you can't shift, or what's, maybe losing ABV too fast that you can't make use of, those kind of things. Or what have you got that really doesn't fit in with your house style? So they'll pick out a few bits and pieces, and they'll try a few things, and in the end they'll go, okay, cool, we'll maybe take that and that. And they'll bottle those and release them as indies. I should at this point show a few bottles, shouldn't I? Now, each of the ones that I've picked out does a different job. They all, we'll get into it just by kind of starting by having a conversation about something. Do you know what? I'll start with what I've got in a glass. I do actually have a whiskey here because I thought I'd treat myself. Why not? It's Sunday. It's the Lord's Day. So this is a distillery example that I've got here that is sort of why I'm primarily interested in independent bottlers. This is a bottle of Auchentoshan. We've covered it on the channel before. We've covered the topic of independent bottlers using this bottle before, so I thought it'd be a nice little callback. And also, it's not every day that you get to fire into a 21-year-old. As you can see, there is not much of this left. I have been very scared of finishing this off. I don't want to finish this off because it's lovely. This is a 50cl bottle. That format pisses a lot of people off. I'll see reasons why. Sometimes people think they're being shortchanged. All right, fair enough. And sometimes people are being shortchanged from that. I don't think I've yet picked up a boutique whiskey bottling because the price versus the format, I struggle to tally it up sometimes, so I don't tend to go for them. Beautiful artwork. The guys know what they're doing, and they have a very interesting podcast, and I've been listening to it, and it's all much great fun. I just haven't gone into any of their own indie bottling lines yet. Behave. Although I'd imagine that line would have very different connotations in America. I just got the old malt cask Auchentoshan 21, and I've had a bottle of Scarabus NAS, most likely a 6 to 8 year old Kalila. Overall, I'm not disappointed, but I need far more time with the 21. Yeah, Kalila's output is incredible. They are by far the most common indie bottling that you see from Isla. Struggling with my words a little bit here today, aren't I? Yeah, their capacity is absolutely incredible. It's just lucky, really. The whiskey they knock out is pretty fantastic all of the time. They are consistently good. Back to this fellow though. So our 21-year-old. I really like teal. That's purely a cosmetic thing. It doesn't matter, but I do like the teal. This was 60 quid. I know. It was on sale. I want to quickly point that out. And I think it was on sale for a couple of reasons, but I mean, what are the reasons that people do not buy something? That's normally when you see things on sale, it's because something's not moving. And if it's something limited edition like this, it's because people just aren't very interested. So what is it about a 21-year-old Auchentoshan that people might not be interested in? Well, there's a few things. And I think one of the big things to kick off with is that not everyone knows what an independent bottling is. Now, this doesn't really apply much to a lot of people that buy off of Master of Malt, because a lot of them are like us, they're booze geeks. You get a lot of speculative as well. You get a lot of people that are kind of like, oh, I don't want to give Amazon any money. Who else is available? Oh, we've got Master of Malt. Okay, cool. And to be fair, they do have everything pretty much. I mean, I've seen things like Get 27, which is a French mint liqueur. You don't get that anywhere else in the UK, but you can get it on Master of Malt. It might be available in like one of those like boutique department stores that are still going, like Harvey Nichols or something like that, because they tend to stock things like what's the other one that I've only ever seen in there and Master of Malts? Mandarin Napoleon, lovely brandy and orange liqueur. But anyway, we're getting off topic again, aren't we? So why might people not be interested in this? Auchentoshan are not great when it comes to their own bottlings. I initially thought Auchentoshan was just not great, because I've tried some Auchentoshan before and I've been like, all right. Now, when I say not great, what I mean I don't mean there's some kind of defect with it. In terms of consistent quality, there's nothing wrong with the whiskey. It's not got a defect. What I mean is it was boring. When you encounter a whiskey, you're just like, it's just a bit dull. 12-year-olds, I found, all right. I didn't mind it, but again, I was just like, I don't know. There's nothing screaming out at me. And with all the stuff that's kicking around at the minute, you can still sell whiskey like that. To be fair, because Auchentoshan are very much supermarket whiskey at the minute. Now, I don't know why being sold in a supermarket means that you have to try less hard. I don't know what that's about. I don't know why that's a thing. It just seems to be a thing. Maybe there is an aspect to apathy in the British public that I don't fully appreciate. I don't know. At the end of the day, I'm not in marketing. I'm not a distiller. I don't make these decisions. I am purely, at the very end, a guy who tries it and has an overinflated idea of himself and broadcasts that on the internet. That's where I stand, and I'm well aware of that. So this is available. I thought, ooh, do you know what? 60 quid for a 21-year-old. Take a pump. Why not? We'll give it a go. This was the first Lowland that I tried that I really liked. It was because of this that I was like, oh, maybe give that Bladnock a go that I've been umming and ahhing about. I think we all know how that one went. Yeah, for those of you who don't, Bladnock's great. This was incredible, but still is incredible. There's still a tiny little bit in there. The first couple of sips that I had out of this weren't the easiest thing to drink. But again, once you give it a bit of time, give it a bit of air, this became one of my favourite whiskies of last year. And there's problems with that. For starters, it's a single cask, which is another thing that indies tend to do. An independent bottler of Auchentoshan 21 will tend to have one source, or they might come from two different casks, which have, for all intents and purposes, are going to be producing, if not the same liquid, damn near identical whiskey, because they've been racked on the same day, they're the same wood, they're the same source, they're being kept in the same area of the warehouse, so the differences are going to be so minute as to virtually not be detectable unless there is some kind of inherent flaw with one of the casks or something goes wrong, in which case that can happen. Put this side by side against a standard bottling of Auchentoshan 21, they'd be night and day. I have not tried the standard Auchentoshan 21. I don't need to. Because there's a lot of... Sorry, I've got a really itchy nose at the moment. I know this isn't very attractive. Mo came in about 10 minutes before I started the stream, and I was giving him a little snuggle, and he is molting at the minute, and my allergies are kicking off, so that was not wise. This bottle, for some context, I'm going to read some of the extensive text on the label, and it'll give you some idea of kind of like what it is that the monster that we're dealing with here. So it informs that it's Lowland region, distilled at the Auchentoshan Distillery for 21 glorious years. One of 342 bottles charged from a refill hogshead, reference DL13130. So straight away, that's a lot of information, and I've only gotten to there. So I suppose one of the first big things about independent bottlers that you get is that there is a lot more information. Because they're more... I almost don't want to slur Lego by this, but it's like the official bottlings are Lego, and these are like nitty little models that you have to paint yourself and put together with super glue and stuff. You know, similar but vastly different at the same time. This single cask was distilled in May 1997 and bottled April 2019. Slightly terrifying that this whiskey was probably put down before some people watching this were born. That's terrifying. That is terrifying. I don't like that at all. Nose, palate, and finish. It gives us some tasting notes, which I'm not going to go into because I don't want this colouring myself. But it does say in gold lettering. It's worth saying as well. No colouring and no chill filtration. Why are these important? They're one of those baffling things, really, in that colouring and chill filtration is something that gets added to a whiskey to make it more approachable, I suppose. They are cosmetic alterations to make the whiskey suit a certain idea of beauty. So I suppose if you want, like, you know, a clumsy comparison, this is more body positive whiskey in that respect. You know, it's kind of like, you know, this is what it is. Your average Joe is not going to know what that means, but they will know if their whiskey goes cloudy. They'll be like, oh, well, you know, there's something wrong with that. We're starting to get away from that notion a bit more now because things like the internet exist, and it is easier than ever to dispel those old myths. And arguably there are much bigger and badder and more dangerous myths out there at the minute for us to worry about. Some of these smaller wives' tales are starting to go by the wayside a little bit. This is also bottled at cask strength, 51.5% ABV. So that 50 cl suddenly really doesn't matter very much because it's bottled so much higher strength. You're essentially getting the equivalent of a full bottle anyway, because you don't need to use as much. I've had this breathing for a little while now. We're close to like 40 minutes at this point. There's a beautiful like buttered toast, buttered crumpets, buttered, well, anything you care to mention really. It's the butter aspect more than it is the something yeasty, you know, a bit of baked goods, quite lemony. Reminds me a little bit of like cream crackers as well. Bit odd, I know, but it's got that kind of like almost burnt, baked aroma that you get off of them. And just have this wonderful floral component as well. But then to taste it, it's incredibly rich. It's got a beautiful velvety mouthfeel. There's a little bit of a sting, because obviously it is quite strong. But it's not completely off-putting. It's warming. You're like, ooh, well, that's a spicy number, but it's not kind of like, ha. Like, as we well know, you can get with some much lower ABV whiskies because it's not an indicator of the strength necessarily so much as it is the quality of the whiskey. We've had this conversation before, and I'm sure people are sick of me mentioning it all the time. There's a wonderful There's a wonderful rich butterscotch element to it as well. It's caramel, honey. It's absolutely beautiful. It did not take long for this bottle to go down to about there. And once it got to about there, I was like, oh shit, that's going away really fast. And I would just chip away at it every now and then when I fancied it. It's been a fantastic whiskey. I've had this for over half a year now. I do this strange thing in the, maybe it's not that strange, I don't know. If I have a whiskey that I really like, I'll try and hang on to it for as long as possible, particularly if it's something like this where it's really not easy to replace. And I'm a little bit skeptical, a little bit scared, and a little bit worried about how other indie Auchentoshan's are going to be. But this, for me, has put Auchentoshan kind of on the map again. And it just kind of, it highlights the damage that the distillery does to its own product by watering it down to 40%, by chilling it, by colouring it, by doing all those kind of things. Auchentoshan at the minute is very heavy on marketing. It's very heavy on just sort of being just a product to drink, you know, and, you know, fuck it about in terms of, you know, actual interest in the liquid. The whiskey's almost beside the point. It's one of these whiskies that is closer to a marketing activity rather than a whiskey. Now, if it were the distillery just churned out shite and it didn't matter, I wouldn't be as annoyed. But this highlighted to me, in the face of glorious opposition from the distillery itself, that actually the liquid they're making is fantastic. It's characterful, it's rich, it's got floral notes, it's complex and wonderful. And I don't understand, I understand to a degree that ultimately the only thing they give a fuck about is money. I think that is plainly obvious in how they operate. And it's probably just as well, because otherwise you probably wouldn't get things like this. Because at the end of the day, it's like, oh yeah, take whatever cash, whatever, we don't care, chill up. If anyone ever watches this from Auchentoshan, they go, oh no, you're completely wrong. You're absolutely wrong. You could not be further from the truth. Okay. But that's the perception you're giving out from the product that you're making. I've been in a situation myself where I've been told that, you know, in professional circles, you know, in times gone by, that, you know, the actions that I act, that wasn't a full sentence, what I do and how I think and what I say give an impression of me that may not necessarily be what I actually think or am or do, but it's the perception that matters, because that's a lot of people's first encounter with you. And it works for the things that you produce as well. It doesn't have to be whiskey. That goes for gins, goes for bakeries, that goes for anything. What you put out is your hello to the world. Oh, we've got a comment. Lovely. I paused Avengers Endgame to come and see John Drinks live. Well, I mean, Avengers Endgame you can watch at any time, which reminds me, I need to watch Avengers Endgame sometime. I haven't got around to it. I don't know why. Actually, no, I do know why. There was a couple of occasions where some friends were going to see it, and they were like, do you want to come along? And I think it came out when I was still at the Cafe Royal, and I was doing two people's jobs. And I don't mean that in terms of like, you know, oh, look at me, I just mean they would not give us enough staff, so I was filling in for essentially two bodies on the rota. Man, I'm glad I'm not still there. Lovely pub, don't get me wrong. Lovely building, very beautiful. Drinks celebrities up and down, like Dave Broom, big fan of the place. To work there was a very, very different kettle of fish. And I don't know, I feel like I almost worked there at probably one of the lowest points in its entire history, which, you know, go me. But yeah, just in terms of, you know, sort of behind the scenes, no, was not a fan. Agent, what have I missed? TLDR version. This is really nice. We're talking about Okatoshin and sort of how their core bottlings do not show what they are capable of in not even the best light, just in a good light, in any good light of any kind. What happened here? WandaVision is worth a watch too. Well, I need to catch up with the Avengers stuff first. It is crazy weird and looks like it is going to have a wild ending. I've heard nothing but good things about it. Nothing but good things about WandaVision, and I do want to watch it. I caught up with all of Mandalorian in, I think, about 3 nights. Just because I was like, all right, I want to watch this, but I don't really like the majority of the stuff that Disney puts out. I know. So I signed up for Disney Plus for 1 month and just binged it. And then obviously Wanda came out, and I've not had an opportunity to do that since. Yeah, I was worried. Need Disney Plus to watch that, and binge watching Mandalorian is not a bad thing. I almost feel like I didn't get the full experience, because a lot of the stories are quite slow. Very engaging, they're very exciting, they're very well done. They are quite slow. Because I was going through them at such a pace, I don't think I was allowing one episode to sink in before I was just kind of like jumping onto the next one. So having looking back on the series, I'm like, right, what happened? I was like, right, there was like a tiny Yoda that wasn't called Yoda, and Mark Hamill was in it. And there was some other stuff involving fighting. And this is the way. And I have spoken. And that's kind of it. That's kind of everything I picked up from that series, which is definitely doing a disservice. The visuals are stunning. Star Wars has always done visuals very well. Star Wars has arguably done visuals a lot better than story. And I almost feel like The Mandalorian went, do you know what, let's stick to what we're good at. And they kept the story really simple. And as a consequence of that, it's actually benefited it. I mean, I didn't hear midichlorians come up at any point. I can't wait to watch one more round. Okay. Where were we? Yeah, so the first point that I had for indies was they're a really good way of seeing what a distillery is capable of. If that is a distillery that you know has sort of given up a bit. Yeah, there's a lot of them. And actually, we're going to have another example right now. From the same independent bottle, I should probably say as well, it was Douglas Lang, part of their All Particular. I like Dougie Lang stuff. I know people consider it to be a bit hit and miss. Fair enough. To be fair, I agree, because of this next bottle. This is probably the oldest bottle that I currently own. Let's say yes. I think I might be wrong, but let's say yes, because that makes this more exciting. And arguably, this is not particularly exciting. This is a Jura. Again, I've had some encounters with Jura. Not really liked them very much. I've got a Jura 10 kicking around somewhere amongst all my miniatures on that shelf. I'm not going to go dogging it out? Wow. Wow, I didn't even know I was thirsty. Okay. I'm not going to go digging it out. Oh, all the comments. Blimey. Let's catch this up quickly. Sorry, beg your pardon, everybody. John, who's the best indie bottler out there right now? All Particular is Dougie Lang, is indeed. What about Adelpha or Hunter Lang? Now then, I'm glad you brought this up, actually, because we can get on to one of the things that I'm not really going to be talking about tonight, which is the best. There's a perfectly good reason for that. I haven't tried enough of them. to give an objective or a sound opinion on that. I can tell you a lot of the ones that people say are really good, which would be most of them. I would arguably, I would say Douglas Lang is the one that I'm aware of that has the shakiest reputation, and I've had grand standing with them. I've found their stuff to be excellent. You know, I think they pick out some genuinely interesting and characterful stuff, or just bangers, for want of a better way of doing it. Cade and Eds do excellent work. We'll be getting to them soon enough. Gordon MacPhail, grand. I haven't tried any Adelphi. I've heard excellent things. I haven't tried any of the Lady of the Glen. I've heard excellent things. I haven't tried any Carn Moor. I've heard amazing things. I haven't tried any Dram Moor. I've heard wonderful things. There are so many out there. And there's only so much time that I can give towards them. And with the pubs having been shut as well, that makes it a little bit harder. And we'll get on to sort of how I kicked off with indies in a little while. I might need a reminder. So somebody keep that in their mind. I should keep notes. In case you can't tell yet, this is all improv, baby. What else have we got? It's a Danish movie about always having 0.5 promille in your blood. Oh, right. Right, okay. It's promille laundry detergent. No, it's a measure. I think it's 0.01%. Okay, all right. There's like a little sub-adventure going on in the comments at the minute, and I'm loving it. Is Compass Box considered an indie? Ooh. I would have ooh. See, that's interesting, isn't it? Because they're blenders. Have Compass released any single cask stuff? You see, they blur the line a fair bit. I suppose technically speaking, they are independent bottlers, but they don't. They then make something with that. So I suppose in some ways you could maybe argue, no, is Drambuie an indie bottler? You would have a harder time arguing that, to be fair. It must be, it doesn't have its own bottlings. A similar thing with, not quite the same thing with Weems, I suppose, as well. Like, you know, they do have some blends that they release as well. 0.5% blood alcohol, yes. Compass Box doesn't have its own distillery. You're quite right. Again, it's a bit of a blurred line, that one. But you know, on paper, yes, I would say. But you know, they are also whiskey blenders. I'm sorry, I lost my English vocabulary. That's absolutely fine. I suppose it comes with kind of like, you know, there are other, you know, to what extent is a blender's also an independent bottler? Because some don't own any distilleries, you know, they have to get it from external sources, you know, some do. Compass Box is a good example of one that does not. But always a good one to have a conversation about grains as well. But yeah, I don't know if that's answered your question. I'm not convinced it has, to be fair, but I tried. Anyway, to our next Douglas Lang bottling. Jura 12-year-old. 54.3% this one. You can see there's a fair bit more of it still left. I have very slowly worked over this in about 2 years. It's taken a while. I did not like this whiskey when I first opened it. I did not like this whiskey 6 months after I'd opened it. I did not like this whiskey a year and a half after I'd opened it. It has taken a good long while for me to get an appreciation of what this whiskey is doing. It's an odd one. It's almost sounds unusual to be describing a whiskey as rugged, because I suppose a lot of people would consider whiskey to be a rugged drink. It's quite rough and ready. It doesn't come at you with very conventional flavors. It almost tastes like hay, dried leaves, a little bit of like acrid tar kind of flavors in there as well. It's all a little bit washed out and a little bit almost sanitized, which is bizarre because, again, same thing as before. No color, no chill, natural cask strength. This is part of the All Particular Elements collection. Lovely black label on there. And this one is supposed to represent water. One of 268 bottles finished in a Pedro Jimenez sherry butt, which was another reason why I picked it up, because I was like, oh, Sherry Jura, Indie, yes, gimme. Distilled October 2007, bottled December 2019. Okay, so I've not actually had this as long as I thought I had. December 2019. Yeah, so I can't have had it more than a year then. Well, a little over a year, but not much more than a year. I thought I'd had this longer than I had, so what am I thinking of then? Okay. And there's just some generic waffle about the Douglas Lang operation. This is not an easy one. The best time I've had with this whiskey was about 6 months ago. I fired into it, kept kind of trying it, and I'd not really been getting it. I'd not been enjoying it. I just wasn't connecting with it. I was always passing it over. Some of this has gone into blend. I've done some home blending, and this has gone into it. So you just kind of like almost give it a bulk component, for want of a better way of putting it. I don't think the flavors in this are particularly noteworthy. But the best time I had with this was 6 months ago. It was a little bit longer than 6 months ago, maybe 7 or 8 months ago now. And I couldn't sleep. I was like, right, I want to go on a walk. I want to go see the sunrise. And this was around about a time where sunrise was around about 5 a.m., 6 a.m. No, actually, it was earlier than that, about 4 a.m., I think, if memory serves. And I was like, do you know what? I want to go. Not Carlton Hill. What am I talking about? It's an extinct volcano in Edinburgh, John. What's its name? I always forget the damn name of the bloody volcano. Arthur's Seat. How I keep forgetting that, I don't know. I'll go for a walk on Arthur's Seat. I thought, you know, I'll take some whiskey with me. And I thought, right, what's a rugged outside whiskey? I picked this up. I should quickly point out, I did not bring the whole bottle. I had a little hip flask, which actually, I don't know what I've done with it. And did I have a hip flask? No, I had a little sample bottle. Filled that up, took a glass with me. Walked all the way there. Perched myself on sort of this raggy outcrop, ready to watch the sun come up. Poured myself a glass of that and had a lovely time. Birds coming out of, I was going to say the sky, then that makes it sound like they're dropping to their deaths. But there were birds, there were sounds of nature, there were smells of nature. There were the occasional humans kicking around, because some people actually decide to get up at that time rather than not go to sleep. I don't understand these people very much. I don't think they have much of a home life, but I mean, if that's you, fair enough. But you know, some of us just like a nice long bath and a book. But a wonderful time. Now, how much of that was the surroundings? I'd say most of it, but the whiskey helped. So this is kind of my outdoors whiskey. I tried some again not so long ago, and it's improved. But you can see the proportion of whiskey to air. There's a lot more air in there now. It's got a little less fusile. There's more kind of caramel notes coming through in it now. It's like a Hell's Angel that's met someone and decided to settle down. It's taken a long time to get there. The leather jacket's probably still in the cupboard, but it's mellowed out a bit. It's chilled. It's got a mortgage now. I'm not quite sure where I'm going with this comparison, but you get me. It's been a long, long road getting from there to here. Any Star Trek Enterprise fans, I am sorry. But it's gotten there. The reason that I got that bottle was, again, because I was curious about what Jura could be. What can Jura do when it's given a fighting chance? And the answer in that particular instance is that it's not really to my taste. There wasn't much that I picked up on it that I found to be inviting. I can get by with it now. I don't mind it. Sometimes I'm even in the mood for it. But I don't think I'd ever choose to buy another bottle of Jura, indie or otherwise, just because I don't think that I personally vibe with it. There's going to be people out there that adore Jura, that think Jura is, one of the best whiskies out there. Fair enough, I can't take that away from you. And if it is one of your absolute favourites, you're in a pretty good position because it's always very well priced. So if that is you, then you're living a pretty happy life. And I'm a little bit jealous. But that was my encounter of the Jura. For a bit of information, I suppose we might as well actually read the label on the back. So this is going to be Douglas Lang. There's a big old spiel on the back, so I'll do a bit of reading for you. So if anyone needs to go and make a cup of tea, now's the good time. Douglas Lang & Co. was established in 1948 by Fred, bloody hell, screwed up already. Fred Douglas Lang, affectionately known to those in the trade as FDL. Today, many decades later, Douglas Lang remains a proud family-owned business. Only today it's headed by FDL's son, also Fred, and his granddaughter Cara. Together they bring you Douglas Lang's All Particular, a particularly sought-after range of individually selected and specialist Scotch whiskies from all over Scotland. Each bottle the FDL way. Like the first generation of Dougie Lang, the second and third want you to experience these fine-aged whiskies exactly as the distiller intended. So that's curious because one of the reasons that I buy these is because they're often presented in a way that the distiller does not intend, and that's what appeals to them about me. To us, this means not adding any colouring or chill filtering our spirit, but instead leaving it well alone and allowing the naturally present oils and enzymes of the whiskey to make their own special contribution to the nose, mouthfeel, palate, and finish. The result is as close most come to experiencing the rarest of pleasures, savouring a dram straight from the cask in the hallowed surrounding of a distillery warehouse. That's not happened to me yet, for the simple fact that I have not yet stepped foot in a distillery. I know, I'm as surprised as anyone else, but it's just not come up. Big old comment here. Have you had All Particular of Bowmore? Current core range direct from the distillery is not really making waves, but I've heard that indie bottlings are quite decent. I can totally believe that. I have not. In fact, I can't really. Again, Bowmore's another one of those where. Oh no, actually, thinking about it for another second, yeah, I can think of times where I've seen Bowmore's as indies. They're not the most common. But yeah, they do definitely exist. I have not. I wouldn't touch own bottlings of Bowmore at the minute. It's not worth it. It's quite anemic whiskey. They know it's anemic whiskey. Their glory days are well and truly behind them at the moment. It's still whiskey. It'll still get you drunk if you drink enough of it. But for those of us that want a bit more from the whiskey now. Yeah, it doesn't have a whole lot to offer. Ooh, whiskey. It's really good. I'm gonna stick some water in it because I'm drinking that at full strength. For those of you just joining us, this is the Auchentoshan from earlier on that I'm firing into. We're going to be talking about indies other than Dougie Lang as well. Don't worry, that's coming right now. Let's do a Gordon MacPhail. I'm not going to go through all independent bottlers because, again, as I've previously mentioned, I don't have that many examples. That's why we've already done 2 Dougie Langs, because I quite like Dougie Lang. This is a Gordon MacPhail. This was gifted to me by a good friend of mine in Manchester. They won it as a raffle prize. And then I got given it because they don't really drink whiskey. It's not really worth much. This, I just realised you can't see it. Glen Tucker's. Again, we've covered it on the channel already. In fact, barring one, we're going to be seeing a lot of old friends. This is part of the, I think they call it the old or the original distiller labels. It's basically emulating how they used to label their whiskies, and you end up with these glorious classical labels. You can't quite see that, can you? Because of the glare. Hang on. No. Is it that side? No. It's the actual screen that's the problem, isn't it? No. There we go. That's as good as I can do there. This is a 19-year-old. I'm not saying it again. I'm definitely not saying that for a 19-year-old. That's not fucking happening. Distilled in 1994, bottled in 2013. Glen Tucker's, trademark of Proprietors Allied Distillery Limited, Speyside Single Malt Scotch Whisky, 43% volume. Why has this got anything else to tell us that the other two did not? Well, for starters, I mean, you know, chances are the audience currently watching are probably aware of Glen Tucker's in some way, shape, or form. Most people aren't. I wasn't when I went to pick this up, because when I went to pick it up, they were like, "Oh, well, you know, what can you tell us about Glen Tucker's?" And I was like, "I can tell it's an independent bottling, and I can tell you about that. But in terms of Glen Tucker's, I can't tell you much because I've never tried it before." Glen Tucker's is blend filler. The distillery exists to produce whiskey for blends. And this is one of a series of whiskies that you will come across which does one or two things very well. In this particular example, this gives your classic Speyside character. If you really like Glenfiddich and you think, oh, I could maybe go a bit heavier on the pears, go with Glen Tucker's. Because, my God, this is pears, and more fucking pears. I'm not a huge fan of pears, and it's not the flavour I don't like. I actually quite like the flavour. It's the similar thing with bananas. It's the texture that I have an issue with. Because you know, like how majority of pears, like they turn into this weird sludgy mush. I'm not about that. I'm not. It's like the fruit is like crumbling to water. No. Now, give me a pear with the consistency close to an apple. Okay, I can dig that. Same thing with bananas as well, just kind of this weird, foamy mush. But I love the flavour of banana. You know, go figure. Tomatoes are the worst offender for that one. I like products made with tomato. I will not eat a tomato. I flat out refuse. Not a fan at all. Though I did discover I like cherry tomatoes, so, you know, again, it's those... Anyway, we're not here for tomatoes. Love tomato soup. Tomato soup is great. If you're just tuning in, this is the tomato chat. I've had some good McPhail stuff in the past. I had a malt lack of theirs. It was a 15-year-old. Amazing. Absolutely fantastic. This is an opportunity to try a whiskey that you would not normally get your hands on. Whereas the other ones, they're an opportunity to try a distillery that doesn't churn out or doesn't show their whiskey in the best light. This is an opportunity to try something you can't get your hands on in other ways, shape, or forms. Glen Tucker's is very much one of those ones that gets overlooked. I had no idea about them, what to say about them, who they were, barely 6 months ago. So we're always learning. There's some taste notes on the back. I don't fully agree with them. Initially sweet with pear, yeah. Cinnamon and cardamom notes developing. The palate has chili spice and sweet sun berries and a creamy milk chocolate edge. Yeah, there's an element of spice to it, and yeah, it does go a little bit chocolatey towards the end, but it's pear drops. It's liquid pear drops, for want of a better way of putting it. The first few drams of this were not good. It's another one of those, again, where you've got to give it a bit of time, give it a bit of space. But when you do, it will reward you. When I did my initial review of this bottle, it was more or less the neck pour, pretty much. I think I'd had like a dram out of it to give it a go, and it was still getting used to its new environment. And I did it a bit of a disservice on that video. I've gotten to really like this whiskey through trying it, not least because I got a free 19-year-old whiskey. I mean, that does not happen every day, and, you know, hallelujah, because this is actually nice stuff. When this was handed over to me, I did pour a little bit out to mine hosts and said, right, cool, well, I'll tell you what, I'll do, like, you know, a bit of a tasting thing for you, because that's you know, I'm employed to do that anyway. You get the shit for free. You've provided the whiskey. I'll go through it. And they said it was all right, but whiskey's still not that kind of a thing, and it's not everyone's thing. And that's really not anything to be looked down on. You know, some people just don't like whiskey. That's fine. You know, you can't like everything. I like how some cars look. I'm a terrible driver. I don't drive. I don't have a driving license for the very point that you won't fucking want me on the roads. Not a good idea. A bit of water, the Aucantosh becomes really floral. It's like pollen, daffodils and lilies, and croissants. Just variations on the theme of butter at this point, isn't it? It's delightful. I'm loving it. For further thoughts, you'll have to go watch the video. I was thinking a little while ago as well. Super Chats got activated a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, what could I do with them? I was like, well, maybe I could have it that if people put a super chat forward, I have to completely change the topic. But then I couldn't think how I was going to implement that, so I still need to give some thought into that. But I thought the quickest and easiest way to do that would be to have a bit of fun with allowing you guys to derail these. How much of that is influenced by the fact that I've been watching The Play That Goes Wrong the last few days, I couldn't tell you. But I don't know, I'm going to toy around with that idea, I reckon, for some coming up streams. But for the time being, we'll move on. Cadenheads, we've mentioned them already. They are fantastic. I am super lucky in Edinburgh to have access to Cadenheads. They're down sort of towards the bottom of, oh, there's a goodbye. I'll just quickly flash that up. Got to run. Cheers, everyone. Stay safe. Here's to a much different New Year's celebration in 2021 than 2020. Here's hoping. Here's definitely hoping. Yes. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for all of your contributions, and have a good rest of your evening. Back to Cadenheads. I'd only been into Cadenheads within the last 8 months. I've lived in Edinburgh now for 5 years. What am I doing? What am I doing? That's like going to university in Aberdeen and never stepping foot in the Macca bar. You know, what are you doing? That second one will mean a lot less to a lot fewer people. But if you ever have an opportunity to actually nip by Aberdeen, or you're in the region, you know, visiting Glengarry or whatever, nip by Aberdeen. It's actually worth having a look at the place. A lot of people say it's great. Yeah, it is. As every other fucking city. Is that the best you've got? Old Aberdeen in particular, gorgeous place. I've been pining after my old hometown. It sounds weird calling it a hometown, but I mean, I lived there for 5 years, and I went there to for university. It was my first experience of being away from home. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. Cadenheads are fantastic. You can get them pretty much anywhere in the UK now. I don't know what the shipping situation is everywhere else, but you can certainly get them everywhere in the UK, and they do a lot of very interesting work. Their shop is like something out of Harry Potter. And I'm glad that it's still independently owned, because anything else that looks like Harry Potter in Edinburgh has long since been co-opted by tourist tat shops to look like it's out of the films rather than it might have inspired the films. Edinburgh's quite a gaudy place these days, I'm sorry to say. Still very beautiful architecturally, but there's a lot of gaudy stuff out there. Cadenhead shops are definitely not one of them. They have a wonderful blending program. I mean, when I visited, they had 3 blends. I'm not there often enough to know how often that is a thing that they do. This particular one that I've got is Springbank. Now, this is the same Springbank that you can get your hands on in the orange label. simple reason for that is that Springbank and Game heads, different heads of the same, different sides of the same coin is what I'm trying to say. So if you want a 20cl, it'll come in one of their indie bottlings. They are great as well for if you want to try Glen Tucker's, Glen Ord, that kind of a thing. They'll do you 20cls. Really affordable way of trying lots of different whiskies. Part of their mantra is to allow you to try as much as possible, while still giving you a bottle. They're currently closed, unfortunately, because of the current situation. You know, they're not essential. But when they do reopen, I'll be getting a few more of these. It's also where I got my second bottle of, what was it? Bladnock. I had a blank there. I'm going to wrap with another bottle. So I think it's getting a bit late for some people, isn't it, by the looks of it? This, just to kind of prove a point that this is not anything new, this is a Gordon MacPhail from the 70s. I haven't cracked it open yet. Again, it's one of these sort of vintage miniatures that's had a bit disappear out the top. We'll be talking about that a little bit more when I release the 80s Lafroig. That video's done, it just needs to be released. So there's a little heads up, something that's coming. Gordon MacPhail's been going for a long, long time. I mean, as you heard as well from the Douglas line, they've been going for a long time as well. This is not a new thing. What's changed is that people stopped talking about them. They've gotten onto people's maps. That, you know, people are aware of them now. There's a lot of conversation about the bubble bursting in the whiskey world. I'm hopeful it doesn't happen. It probably will. These things tend to be cyclical. I do not have enough life experience to comment on that properly. So to that I defer to my elders, and by my elders I'm sure everyone knows who I'm referring to. The great gospel of Ralphie and Roy, I suppose, for want of a better way of putting it. So when those times come, it's nice to know that these companies have been there before, and they'll still be here when we get back to things. I am going to wrap this topic up now. I realise that we've been going for an hour. I think that's most of what I want to talk about. I will, throughout the course of next week, or I might even pop on again later on tonight, depending if some folks are still interested, I'll do something a bit more impromptu in the middle of the week. And I need to make a decision about whether these topic live streams work or not. I'm enjoying them. I stress out about them quite a bit, being like, "Oh God, tonight's the night. I need to do it." You know, once I'm actually in, I'm happy enough doing it. I think I just need to figure out a balance with these. As I've said previously, I'm still very new to doing these, so we will get there. But for now, I'm going to wrap this up tonight. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining in, for chipping in, for commenting, for coming in with questions. I will watch WandaVision at some point. It will happen. I'm going to go and enjoy this Okatoshin now. If you're coming across the, if you've been coming across this after the fact, thank you very much. I should really start doing that at the start rather than at the end, because obviously that would be the right way around to do it. But if you've gotten this far and you have thoughts, obviously leave them down in the comments as well. It'd be nice to see a continuing conversation on this matter. You know, or even if you've had a particular bottling that you've really been enjoying. That's a good one. You know, leave some recommendations for people as well. But I'm going to wrap this up now. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you guys again soon, where I'll be drinking something else.